My name's Amata and I'm here with the latest from the gaming world on the last 24 or so hours, so you can probably guess what I have for you today, my friends. We have two topics for today. The first of which is going to be a quote-unquote leak for Shadows Die Twice, the next upcoming game from Software. And then we're going to move over to Fallout 76, which Bethesda officially announced today. So, this is a rumour in flaming neon 10-foot high letters, because the source is 4chan. Yeah. So, believe what you will from this particular post. I'm inclined to be hopefully optimistic, but to simultaneously not believe a word of it. So, giving you guys the skinny so you can make of it what you will. So, here we have a post on 4chan. I will include a link to the post in the description below this video. And basically the post reads that the game will be a Souls-like in terms of gameplay and atmosphere, but it's going to be a lot more open, and it's not going to have such a... I guess unclear isn't really the right word, but I guess it's going to be missing that sort of maze-like feel of Dark Souls, of like, you've opened that gate, oh, and here's that area you were in 20 hours ago, and you just kind of loop back on yourself. It's going to have a clearer design, and apparently it's going to have a more directly told story. It's going to be appearing at E3, so obviously it's going to be not that long until we find out how true or false this actually is. It's going to be drawing inspiration apparently from the old PS2 game Kuon, and also, of course, from Bloodborne, as many people guessed from the very, very brief teaser that we got not too long ago. So, in terms of actual gameplay, apparently it's going to have a lot of similarities to Bloodborne, but it's going to be a little less spammy. You know, Bloodborne was really fun, but it was very, very fast-paced, very wild. So we're kind of probably more going to be expecting a Dark Souls 3 flavour of speed of combat, but that is of course just an assumption. Of course there's going to be the usual array of skills, including melee moves, passives, magic. As you might expect from FromSoft, it's not going to be Diablo. That the post reads, quote, "It won't have endless skill trees, and the skills won't be big flashy Diablo-style attacks, just new moves and abilities." So that kind of lines up with the philosophy that we have seen from Software in the past. Apparently we're also going to see a return of trick weapons, but they apparently are not going to be going under that name. We're going to be seeing some weapons have 3 forms and 2 forms, and apparently there's not going to be any shields again, which means I'm going to be extremely upset as a Sword and Board gal. But apparently, in terms of the story, and of course, cover your ears if you're sensitive about spoilers. To be fair, this could be completely and utterly false, but I'm warning you anyway, because that's what a good creator does. The story is apparently going to be centred around an ancient cult that has, quote, been using farmers for their dark rituals for hundreds of years. Now what's interesting, however, is that while there are no shields, as I just said, apparently you can block and counter with your weapon, so it's not going to be full Bloodborne, but it's not going to be full Dark Souls either, kind of a straddling of the line, as it were, between the two things. And in terms of the actual setting, again, according to this post, it is going to be in a dark fantasy world resembling ancient Japan, which I would 110% be down with. Now, if you have seen VaatiVidya's excellent analysis of the teaser trailer, you probably notice his analysis that there is definitely some Japanese leanings in that teaser. If you haven't seen it, by the way, go watch it. It's really good. But I kind of was leaning towards what he was saying in that particular video, so he could be proved right in this particular instance if this, again, post is correct. Now, as you'd expect of any FromSoft game, it's going to have definitely horror elements, and while it is going to be based on Japanese mythology, it's not just going to be a copy-paste, it's going to have the usual FromSoft flair, that sort of thing. And speaking of flair, you will be able to chop limbs off of enemies, there we go, got there in the end, as well as their heads as well. So this is all kind of very intricate detail, so it's going to be very easily disproven in not too long a time. One last thing I want to discuss from this post, however, is apparently there's not going to be any invasions in the way that they currently function in Dark Souls. Instead, you can enter the world of another player, but instead take control of a monster within his world, and that will be a random creature from the level. You will get a slight buff in terms of stats as you play that monster, and apparently this is only going to be available within certain areas of the game. So technically you could argue, yes, there are invasion mechanics, but not in the traditional way that we currently see. Now, one thing that definitely kind of raises an eyebrow is the fact that the post mentioned how the game is going to be more open world. Now, I'm not really sure what that means, because the post also does say that it's not like Skyrim, but it is going to be more open than Dark Souls in the past. But here's the thing with Dark Souls, you technically could go to whatever area you wanted if you knew where you were going. You could have gone completely the wrong area and gotten yourself completely murdered at the start of the game if you wanted. I'm sure many people did exactly that. So I do wonder what they mean by that, but of course, again, we only have to wait a couple of weeks. So all of this sounds pretty good, to be honest. I'm definitely curious to see. I'm not surprised to see them do a Dark Souls style game in terms of the actual sort of mechanics and that sort of thing, but I think many people are hoping for a massive divergence from Dark Souls because, you know, after all the talk of like, we're done with Dark Souls, we're done with all that sort of thing, you would expect it to be nothing like Dark Souls at all, or to have, you know, some inspiration, clearly, you know, perhaps some of the ideas and techniques that they learned over the years and some inspiration in terms of the level design, that sort of thing. I think that would be reasonable. So some might be disappointed by this, some might be like, yes, more Souls-like, even if it doesn't have Souls or Bloodborne in the title. It is technically going to be a Souls-like if, again, this post is true. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see, but I'm definitely interested. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Shadows Die Twice, whatever it ends up being, at Sony's conference at E3. Now, I hope it isn't a PS4 exclusive, obviously, because, you know, more people should play the game, to be honest with you, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here. I have missed out a few things, but I've covered what I think are the most interesting pieces of information here. There is going to be a link to the thread in the description below this video, so I'd highly recommend you give it a read if you're at all interested. So let's move on from rumour to fact, as we have Fallout 76. So just the other day I discussed that tease that was going on Bethesda's Twitter, and now we know what it is. It is going to be Fallout 76, and it is going to be developed by Bethesda's main studio in Maryland and at the Austin office as well. Now, I'm sure you have all seen the teaser trailer, and it does have a few details to kind of glean. Now, I'm going to thank the folks over at r/games for this particular insight, because they point out that Vault 76, and this is a user by the name of Antichrist Stolen, who says, quote, "The Vault Tech terminal in the Citadel lists Vault 76 as a control vault with 500 occupants. The vault was designed to open 20 years after a nuclear war and was among the 17 known control vaults, meaning that it was used as a baseline to compare to experimental vaults. It is also mentioned in one of the alien captive recorded logs recorded by Giles at Wollstonecroft, a Vault Tech official who was abducted while inspecting the vault's construction site. In Fallout 4, the news radio in the prologue mentions Vault 76 debuting in 2076 in honour of America's century when discussing Vault-Tech's plans to expand." You can tell I didn't know how to pronounce that word there, didn't you? Regardless, the takeaway from that particular post is this is a prequel before any of the other Fallout games, which is very, very interesting by itself. Now, also in the trailer itself, we did hear the song, you know, West Virginia. You know the one, you're hearing it already in your head, aren't you? Yeah? So that obviously has led people to the, you know, amazing Sherlock-like conclusion that it's going to be set in West Virginia. It would make sense, for sure. Now, what's interesting, however, is that there was a tweet from Jason Schreier, who is a news editor over at Kotaku, and he had some comments that might be kind of dampening people's hype somewhat, because obviously speculation is just like, oh, this is going to be like another full-on Fallout game, or maybe even if it's slightly smaller than, you know, Fallout 4 was or whatever, it's going to be a single-player RPG, But he's saying, actually, no, that's not the case. He says, quote, "I think it's really important to reiterate this. Anyone who spends the next 2 weeks expecting Fallout 76 to be a new, traditional, single-player RPG will be very disappointed." And in Kotaku's report on their website, they do state that apparently it's going to be an online game of some description. Now, whether that means it's going to have a multiplayer component or if it's going to be multiplayer only, it's hard to say. But clearly, Jason believes that this is not going to be a mainline RPG. So obviously, we're going to learn way more at Bethesda's conference at E3, which is rapidly approaching. Where is the year gone, guys? I genuinely don't know. So, of course, we don't know what this game is. While the trailer was cool and definitely interesting, it didn't really tell us anything other than the title of the game and the fact that, yes, it's a prequel, basically. So, what are your speculations? I think most people would hope for a single-player game, even if it's not a full, you know, 400-hour RPG like Fallout 4, even if it's a smaller experience, like 20 hours or whatever. that could be cool if it's more story focused. I would actually be down for that, to be honest, but obviously that would probably not go down with a lot of people. But it does seem odd that we're going to another Fallout game before we see another Skyrim, so I'm not expecting a full-blown experience here. But of course, that is a pure speculation based on nothing more than what Jason has said, and just my feeling based on how soon this has come out versus Fallout 4. Obviously, Fallout 4 did come out a while ago now, but in terms of, you know, development time, it's not really that long at all. So I'm rambling a bit, but you kind of get my point. We don't know, so we're going to have to wait and see. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. You've had me talk for almost 11 minutes now, so hit me up with your thoughts and opinions in the comment sections below. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye-bye.